Hey everyone, it's Ashley with Big World Young Feet, and I know it's been a long time since I've made a video, so I'm just coming today. I'm going to try to do this super casually with no edits. We'll see how that goes. So yeah, November and December has been absolutely crazy. What has been going on? So first off, I realized that I started a NoSpendNovember challenge, posted a video, and then never did a single update, but I assure you I was doing NoSpendNovember. I made it a solid 2 weeks without spending a cent of extemporaneous money. And then we got into Thanksgiving time and some family plans changed at the very last minute. So my husband and I ended up taking a trip to Savannah over Thanksgiving week. So there definitely was some spending off and on the last 2 weeks. I think 4 weeks is really long for a challenge. 4 weeks doesn't sound long, but then when you get in it, it drags on forever. So 2 weeks was a solid time to be doing a challenge. And I rocked it for the first 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks were, they were okay. They weren't great. They weren't bad. I did end up saving a lot of money. I ended up changing a little bit how I do my budget in YNAB. So those and both things are working really, really well for me right now. So thankful for the challenge for that, and thankful for the challenge for just kind of pointing out how easily it is to spend money. And if the question comes up, what do you want to spend your money on, going out to lunch or a book? The book wins. What do you want to spend money on, a t-shirt or a book? The book usually wins, unless it's a book-themed t-shirt. So, anyway, thank you, NoSpendNovember. So we went to Savannah over Thanksgiving break. That was awesome. It was the first time we never did Thanksgiving. It's the first year we didn't do Thanksgiving with our family, which was a little weird, but also a little awesome. Because we went to Savannah, we rented an Airbnb, we did a low country boil for a Thanksgiving meal, so there was only one pot to clean up. It was awesome. Kombucha. Do you guys drink kombucha? I love it, and I feel like that makes me a total hipster, but I kind of don't care because kombucha is delicious. I've been trying to find the holiday flavor of this Health Aid brand and cannot find it anywhere. And I keep seeing it on Instagram, and I'm like, I need it. Where is it? Can't find it. Anyway, Savannah. We were in Savannah. We stayed on Tybee Island, so we got to ride our bikes around. It was just beautiful. The weather was perfect, and there was nobody there because it was, nobody goes to the beach in November. So it was really quiet and wonderful. We toured downtown Savannah a lot. We went to Flannery O'Connor's childhood home, which was amazing. Flannery O'Connor is one of my favorite writers, and to see where she grew up was incredible. My favorite part of the house, it's very small. It's like a Depression era, very skinny, tall building. My favorite part of the house was the bathroom. And they had it set up as if Flannery was there as a child because she liked to read in the bathtub. She'd bring her friends over and they would have reading parties, which, like, how adorable is that? So they had it all set up the way Flannery would have set it up, which is to say lots and lots of pillows and blankets in the bathtub. And she would line the toilet seat with flowers. So it was wonderful and charming, and I was like, I should do that when I take a bath. I should care as much about my surroundings when I read as Flannery did. But I picked up lots of books from her childhood home, her complete volume of short stories, her volume of letters. Wonderful. Loved the house. We had the best tour guide, and that was the best thing we did all of Thanksgiving week. I also got to go to E. Shaver Booksellers in downtown Savannah and the Book Lady. Both were wonderful in such different ways. So E. Shaver is you can go there and you find gifts, and they have got lots of little rooms, and it feels like you could almost live there because it looks like a house almost when you're inside, and they've got tea sets and a tea room, and it's just like a cozy, you could literally just move in. And they have bookstore cats, which I feel like should be required for all independent bookstores. Went to Book Lady also. Love Book Lady. You walk down a couple of steps to get in and it feels like you're in a hobbit hole. The ceiling is real close. Everything's awesome, and it's so full. There was books everywhere. You can't walk without knocking into books, which is wonderful. Loved that. So got back from Thanksgiving break, and on December 1st, my grandmother died. So that was rough. I went to Mississippi for a week to help plan her funeral and be there for that. The upside of that was I got to go to Oxford, Mississippi, which is where I went to grad school, and the only reason I wanted to go, two reasons: Big Bad Breakfast and Square Books. That is the only thing I cared to revisit from my grad school days. If you've never eaten at Big Bad Breakfast, try to go to Oxford and do it. John Currents, who's the chef, has a cookbook. Check that out. Big Bad Breakfast Like, I don't care if you think you have a good breakfast place, you don't, because it's not Big Bad Breakfast. I always get the tender hooks, which comes with like a bruleed grapefruit. Oh, delicious. And then I went to all 3 Square Books locations. So you have the main Square Books, which is the famous one, and it's one of the best bookstores in the country, hands down. But then there's Off Square Books, which is where they have their discount books and their specialty books, as well as where they do all their readings. Off Square is like really chill, and they have all the gifts. It's like the best. I love Off Square the most. And then I went to Square Books Junior, which is their kids bookstore, which like, I keep saying they're all the best because they are. Like, Square Books is the best bookstore in the world. Check them out on Instagram. If you're ever in Mississippi, like, try to make a trip and go. It's totally worth it. Loved it. So definitely did buy a lot of books in November and December. Spent just so much money on books, but you know, like, it's worth it, right? Okay, so what did I read in November and December? So the first book I read, and of course I checked out all of these from the library because I was doing NoSpendNovember, so I have none of these copies. I'm just going to talk about them. I read Ready Player One. I actually read that out loud to my husband across several road trips on our Kindle. That was really fun. I think he liked it more than I did. You definitely have to be a nerd, I think, to one, get all the references, and then 2, appreciate the humor in them. So, and he's a giant nerd and I am too, so of course I loved it. You can tell the author doesn't really know how to write women. Not that he was sexist or not that he like wrote women badly, but the male characters were definitely way stronger, and the female characters were pretty stereotyped, I thought. But overall the book was good, definitely enjoyable, and I kind of want to pick up some of his other books to see if I like them any better. I also read Beartown by Frederick Bachman, and I also read, what was his Christmas one called? Deal of a Lifetime. I read both of those Frederick Bachman books in November and December. Really, really loved Beartown. Thought it was really good. It dealt with some really serious and important and timely issues just in a really good way. You know, all my family lives in small towns, and I know how that environment can kind of foster the kind of things that Beartown talks about. So it's not just about hockey, if you haven't read it because you think it's about a hockey book. It's about so much more than that. Definitely worth it. Deal of a Lifetime was okay. I feel like, why wouldn't you just read A Christmas Carol though? Because it was much shorter and not as well done, and A Christmas Carol did it better and first, so just read that. Another book I read was Caroline, or Little House Revisited by Sarah Miller. I actually wrote a blog post about this because I wanted to like the book. I think overall I did like the book, but there were some weird things going on in it. So I finished reading it and then immediately wrote a blog post, which I haven't, like, I don't really blog regularly, so that was kind of weird for me to do, but, so yeah, so you want to know my full thoughts about that book, go check out my blog. If you like Little House, this is an interesting perspective because it's basically retells Little House on the Prairie, but it does it from the mother's perspective. So it was interesting, had some cool things going on there. I didn't super love the way she portrayed Caroline, but it was approved by the Family Trust, so it wasn't all bad. It definitely had its good parts, but there were definitely some problems that I found with it. I finished An Old-Fashioned Thanksgiving by Louisa May Alcott right before Thanksgiving. That is adorable. It's just a little short kid story. My version that I got from the library was illustrated and had old-fashioned New England recipes in it. Super worth it. Check it out. Really, really cute. I read Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. Didn't love it, guys. I'm sorry. I know that's like sacrilege to say on BookTube, but I did not love this book. I thought he talked about anxiety and OCD in a pretty good way. And in fact, I feel like that was the focus of the book. And the plot that was behind it was super unnecessary. And I kind of wish he had just talked about the main character's OCD and anxiety issues, because that was what was interesting and that was what was well done. And the plot was just so, like, extra. It was so out there and ludicrous and over the top that it made no sense, and it was actually really distracting to me from the main narrative of how Taza, was that her name? Raza? The main character, how she deals with her mental health issues. I read A Wrinkle in Time because of course the trailer came out and I was like, I've never read this book and I feel a little bit embarrassed about that. So I read that, actually read that out loud to my husband over Thanksgiving break. I liked it more than he did. It did get a little trippy at the end, and you can definitely tell that Madeleine L'Engle's Christian references and theology come through. It didn't bother me at all. That was really well done. But if that's something you might struggle with, and just know that that's there. But I thought it was really, really cute. I don't know that I'll read the rest of the quintet just yet, but I did enjoy it, and I can't wait to see the movie. So glad I finally read that one since I never read it as a kid. book blogger fail. My favorite book of the past 2 months, hands down, it might even be one of my favorite books of the entire year, was The Inquisitor's Tale by Adam Gidwitz. This was illustrated, or actually illuminated, by Haddam Ali. So The Inquisitor's Tale is kind of, it reminded me a lot of Chaucer's Tale, or Canterbury Tales. Chaucer's Tale. Failing tonight. Anyway, it's a YA book, or a middle grades reader book, so young, like elementary school, 4th, 5th grade or so. It talks about 3 children in the Middle Ages. One is a peasant girl, a Catholic peasant girl. One is a Jewish peasant boy, and one is a young Catholic monk. And they have teamed up with their holy dog, their holy greyhound, because they are running from the king who has waged war on them. And throughout the novel, you don't know why that the king has waged war on these 3 children, but you find out at the end, and it's such an exciting story. The whole plot is told from the perspective of different people that have all gathered in this ale house to tell stories about these children. So you're learning about them piecemeal, much in the same way that each character in the Canterbury Tales had their own narrative to tell. Such a good story, and it was fun, and it's for children, so it has kind of like toilet humor. There's a farting dragon. There's lots of jokes about donkeys being called asses. It's very juvenile humor, but at the same time it deals with really deep and complex themes in a really graceful way. Hands down favorite book, coupled with the fact that it was illustrated like an illuminated manuscript from the medieval period, was just the cherry on top of the ice cream sundae. These illustrations are amazing. They're so well done. They're fun. They're intriguing. They're moving. A perfect accompaniment to the novel itself. Seriously, like, I recommend this book above almost anything else that I've read all year, pretty much. The last book I read this month was From Here to Eternity by Caitlin Doty. She wrote When Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and has probably hands down like the best YouTube channel out there. I love Caitlin Doty. This book was really good. It's different from When Smoke Gets in Your Eyes in that it deals with funeral rites and death traditions across the world. And it about the only time that the American funeral industry gets involved is 2 chapters when it talks about kind of alternatives to the traditional American funeral. And I read this right after I planned my grandmother's funeral, so definitely kind of hit home for me, like how kind of like controlled and regimented American funerals tend to be, and how that sometimes leaves the family feeling very closed off and removed from death, and then therefore very afraid of it. So her argument in this book is that, and it's not so much a strong argument as it just kind of runs through the background, but she shows you all these other death traditions to show you that other cultures are not always as afraid or want to be as removed from death as Americans tend to do. And her argument is that in being up close and personal with death, some of these cultures have skeletons in their houses. Like, that's how up close and personal with it they are. But her argument is that in being so personal with death, it's not as terrifying. They feel more closure when their family members die. They feel a closer connection and more of like a complete cycle of life. There's just kind of less inability to grieve after someone dies because they are directly involved with those funerals. But it was just really, really interesting to learn about all the different funeral rites and traditions that some of them I didn't know about. It's not a very in-depth look. You would definitely want to consult her biography at the end of the book, which I'm so grateful that she includes that, because it is very kind of like overview, surface level. But I definitely have consulted some of the other websites and books that she mentioned, because I really want to know more about some of these cultures, especially the Latinx ones. Fascinating to me how some of these cultures mummify their dead and live with them in their house, or keep their skulls on their mantle, or it's just really, really interesting. So I'm reading a lot of stuff that I picked up from all the independent bookstores that I visited in the last 2 months. I'll probably try to do a haul video, since I did pick up kind of an embarrassing number. But I'm gonna try to get back into YouTubing now that I'm back and Christmas is almost over and things are back to normal, but we'll see. Until then, have a great one. Bye.